Now, I'm going to talk about the various organizations I've approached for help. The first one was the Nursing and Midwifery Council, because I'm a registered mental health nurse and I belong to that council. I explained about how Penny Vera treated me unprofessionally, and they wrote back to say that there was nothing they could do about it. They can only deal with cases where nurses have harmed patients. So in February, I wrote back to them to say that I'm not able to get a job as a nurse. So whatever happened at Farmfield Hospital has harmed me as a nurse. And I still haven't received a response from them. So that was in February. Um, I contribute every year, and I don't understand how an organization can destroy my career, destroy my life, and the organization I belong to says that there's nothing they can do about it. Now, I also belong to Unite the Nation, which is a trade union. I contacted the trade union Unite before I was fired, when I was having the problems, when I was asked to bring in a trade union representative. When I found them, I was passed around 6 offices, each office saying that they were not responsible for me. Eventually, I was sent back to the first office I spoke to, and they took my details saying that they would come back to me, but they never came back to me. I wrote to them again when I was fired on the 5th of July, and explained that I was unfairly dismissed. Can they come and help me? Again, when I wrote them, it was even before I got the confirmation letter that I had been fired. But they never came back to me. They came back to me after 3 months to tell me that there's nothing they can do because I'm past the time the employment tribunal will take my case. But how is that possible? I contacted them as soon as I was fired. Now, they could have explained to me that I have 3 months to put in my claim, and they didn't. I wrote back to them again to say, can they give me a name of someone I can complain to? The response I got was a longer explanation that there's nothing anybody can do about it because I didn't work at the Priory for a year. I wrote to them again on the 25th of February 2013 to say that because of what happened to me at the Priory, I am now unable to get a nursing job. Now, being told that you can't meet the minimum requirement of a junior post is quite damaging for somebody with my experience and qualifications. Obviously, any employer, potential employer, will question that. I can understand that. But what I can't understand is that nobody can help me reclaim my reputation. Obviously, it was very unfair what has happened to me. But it seems that in the whole of UK, there's not a single person or a single body which can go and investigate and ask why I'm in the position I'm in. I'm now not able to work, but it doesn't bother anyone. Now, the other organization I contacted was the Care Quality Commission. And again, they said the same thing, that because no harm has taken place in terms of harm to the patients, there's nothing they can do. So I contacted the David Cameron's office to ask again for help and explained what happened to me. And David Cameron's office referred my letter to the Department of Health, and said that the Department of Health is the most appropriate department to deal with it. And my granddaughter also wrote to David Cameron asking for support. And now she's going to read her letter to David Cameron.
Dear Mr. Cameron, my name is Taylor Zanaka and I'm 13 years old. I am in year 8 and I've told him what school I attend, but I'm not going to say it for safety reasons. I am writing to you about the campaign that me and my nan are doing, and I'm asking if you could look at the videos on YouTube. It's called Maher and Grandchildren Priory group. There is another video on Vimeo which is longer and contains much more information. The videos are very interesting and they explain why my nan needs justice. I think that everyone deserves justice and fairness because I feel it is very horrible to be treated unfairly. Everyone deserves equal rights. If you have time, I would like to come and visit you to talk about the campaign and explain more about it. The campaign is important to me because I don't want my nan to lose the house, as I've grown up there and have lived there for nearly 13 years, but I'm now living with my mum and 2 younger brothers. I visit my nan every weekend from Friday to Sunday, and we have worked very hard on the garden that it would be a shame for all the hard work to go to waste. My nan is scared of losing the house, as it's where all her grandkids grew up. I think it's a very lovely place, and people say that the home is where the heart is, and that is where her heart is. I hope you can watch the videos, as that was a lot of effort, and I can't wait to hear from you. Thank you for your support. Yours sincerely, Taylor and Rezanaka.
Taylor, do you want to say how it felt not getting a response?
I felt upset
Why?
because, I thought I would have got a response, or something, or a letter, and I told everyone at school that I wrote a letter to the Prime Minister, because not many people get to do that, and I felt it was upsetting when I didn't get a letter or an email.
Okay. So for me, really, listening to my granddaughter, it really does upset me, especially when I watched the Baroness Margaret Thatcher's funeral and looked at David Cameron's face when they were talking about a letter he wrote to Margaret Thatcher when he was 9 years old, and she responded to his letter. And the pride I saw on David Cameron's face when this was being talked about really upset me a lot, because I was thinking, my granddaughter has just written to you, and this is a serious situation our family is facing, and yet she didn't even get a response to it. I know that David Cameron's office also sent Taylor's letter to the Department of Health, but the Department of Health told us that there was nothing they can do for me in terms of looking at the situation at the Priory. And then they asked me to pass a message to Taylor, which I don't pass messages. My granddaughter wrote a letter, her own letter, and I expected her to get a response directly to her. She didn't write through me to say, can you write this for me? She wrote it herself. And she was so excited about it because she was looking forward to getting a response so that she could go and show her teachers and her friends at school. And that didn't happen. It just made me understand that really in this country there are different classes. It's almost like being in the economy class, where nobody really gives a damn about what is happening to you. And I can't believe that up to now, there's evidence of how unfair I was treated, and yet nobody can do anything about it. Now, I don't know what people think, but at the moment, I am very angry. And I know that if I lose my house, I don't know how I'm going to react to that. I can actually understand people who end up burning their house before it's repossessed, because I've put a lot of energy. You can look around and you can see how much work I've put into this place. And for me to then lose it, and even if we sell it, we are not going to make much money out of it, because one, we had a fire and that cost us quite a lot of money, and we are not going to recover that money because we remortgaged for me to have the consulting room put in. So I'm not just going to be losing my home, I'm also going to be losing a place I could work in. And come rain, come sunshine, this story has to be told. It doesn't matter what the conditions are. Now I'm going to talk to you about the issue of racism, because it has been raised many times. It's not that my interest in it or lack of mentioning it was not because I didn't understand the racism which was also taking place. I've at racism in detail and managed to write this book. Now I'll just read to you the cover blurb on my book. MJ writes for those interested in the dynamics of racism, from professionals in counseling, group analysis, and psychotherapy, working in multiracial and multicultural societies, to those exposed to racism who need help in dealing with the impact of their experiences. She also addresses the concept of victims becoming perpetrators if support is not given to contain the process. Herself a group analyst, the author experienced at first hand racial discrimination within the system, but rather than succumb to it, she has instead produced an enduring and proficient work that draws heavily on personal experience, combining years of counseling with the natural compassion. She makes the subject of racism approachable, thus motivating all those wanting to explore the issues. For people whose experiences of broken attachment crosses racial lines, this book, probably the first to use Bowlby's attachment theory as a framework of understanding racism. Now, Sir Richard Bowlby, that is the son of John Bowlby, wrote the following. MJ Maher makes an outstanding contribution which clearly reflects the insights of my father, John Bowlby. His groundbreaking work on attachment theory, Maher's seminal work, has thoroughly caught the spirit of how disrupted family bonds combined with racial discrimination can create such a lasting impact. I commend this book to all those involved in this most important field. And then Ian Parker, Professor Ian Parker, who was a professor at Manchester Metropolitan University, he also wrote the foreword to this book. This is what he says. We must read this impressive book. Here we have a serious attempt to change the psychoanalytic world. There is a bridging across from the psychoanalytic context to qualitative research, and links are made with approaches to subjectivity in psychoanalysis. This is also an action research, for it aims to change the world at the same time as it interprets it. Now, would you think somebody able to do that would really fail to do the duties of a junior nurse, a nurse who has just come out of training? I don't think so. Now, the other thing I also want to show you is my certificate at being nominated. This is by the King's Fund Association with Evening Standards and NHS London. Congratulates MJ Maher on being nominated in the NHS Champions Award 2008. Anybody who has worked with me, including those at the Priory, knows that I'm not an idiot.